Thank you for joining us as we launch a new high for Atlanta. And today we are celebrating a 7-year journey that has brought us to this point in the High Museum of Art and Atlanta's evolution as a museum and as a city for arts and culture. We have moved from a dream to a splendid reality. Now we have a renewed, expanded, welcoming, ambitious institution, and we continue to dream of the future. But today, actually, we're celebrating what I think of as a collective dream. And I always, usually I dream alone. But many of our donors are here today, and they and probably all of you have dreamt along with us. So on behalf of our board, our staff, and the people of Atlanta, we thank you. More than 5,000 individuals, families, corporations, and foundations have supported our capital campaign. But I would like to give some special thanks to 3 families after whom our buildings are named: Margaret and Terry Stent, Susan and John Wieland, and Ann Cox Chambers. It was in 1998, 7 years ago, that Renzo suggested that he might prepare a master plan for this entire block. And his idea was that after a 6-month planning process, as Renzo said, we could decide whether or not we wanted to get married. So from the perspective of 7 years later, it's been a very gratifying relationship. We have, along the way, been encouraged and cajoled, and most often inspired by the vision of Renzo Piano and his team at the Building Workshop. They are the lead architects both on the High Museum of Art project and the Woodruff Art Center projects, creating a real urban village for the arts. And Mark Carroll, the project architect that we worked most closely with, was a superb friend and colleague along the way. The outstanding local architectural firm that worked directly for the Building Workshop and very, very closely with us was Lord Ekin Sargent of Atlanta, highly dedicated to the project and the sponsors of the lecture today. Jones Lang LaSalle, our project managers, did a terrific job keeping the project on schedule and on budget. And Skanska USA, our builders, literally did the heavy lifting with commitment and a great dedication to quality. One of the key dreamers, along with you and myself in this journey, has been John Wieland, the chair of our building committee, a great patron and friend, and we'd like John to say a few words to you. Please welcome John Wieland.
So welcome to what is really going to be a wonderful afternoon. And it has been a great 6-year collaboration for all of us at the High, for the Renzo Piano Building Workshop, and for our Atlanta architects, Lord Ekin Sargent, and our builders, Skanska USA, and literally dozens of other individuals and firms that all participated in making the reality that is just outside these doors. And I do want to observe on one thing, and that is that before I was the chair of the building committee, I was the chair of the architect selection committee. And that was the easiest job I have ever had in my entire life. But in the year 2000, the museum provided the workshop with a short list of architectural firms in Atlanta that might be capable of collaborating on the project. And it was a very easy pick to pick Lord Ekin Sargent, and so I'm here today to thank them for sponsoring this lecture, and it's my pleasure to introduce John Starr, the principal architect for Lord Ekin Sargent, on the project. And I would just observe that his last name says it all. And John did a great job for us, as well as his fellow architects at Lord Ekin Sargent. And John also spearheaded the renovation of the Stent Wing in 2003. And currently he's working on several other museum projects, but there will never be a museum project like this museum project. So, John, you've been a wonderful partner. This is a great accomplishment. Thank you for sponsoring today, and join me in welcoming John Starr.
It's really fabulous to be here today and to look out and see 2,000 people that are here to hear about architecture in Atlanta. It's just amazing. Early in the design process, after one of the design review meetings in Genoa, I asked Michael how they had come to select Renzo. And he talked about the master plan process, but what he didn't say was he said that the museum early on had considered selecting an up-and-coming firm, much as they had done with Richard Meyer in the 70s. But they reconsidered, and for a while they thought about having an architectural limited competition. He said, but all during this process, they were traveling around the country and around the world and looking at museums and refining their vision for what the high should be. And he said, in seeing all those museums, they just came to understand that Renzo was really the best selection for a museum today, and in particular for their visions for the high. After the concept of the cultural village was developed with Renzo in that master plan, John Whelan, who you know is a very astute businessman and builder, remarked that they'd really selected one of the smartest architects in the world. He said, you know, we came to Renzo for one building, and he gave us 5. Over the past 5 years, we've really had the honor and the pleasure of working very closely with Renzo, with Mark Carroll, his partner, and all of his colleagues at the building workshop. They really made us feel a part of the team, called on us to do many, many things, and to help realize those dreams that John and Michael have talked about. Throughout the process, John and Michael have shown a great deal of faith that Renzo was listening to those dreams. In a few minutes, when he talks more about the process and you wander around the village to see the actual outcome, I'm sure that you'll agree that Renzo really was listening. Thank you for coming today. We hope that you'll enjoy what you see and hear from Renzo. Let me welcome back Michael Shapiro.
Well, thank you for being so patient. You're wondering, why is Michael back? Well, I have the pleasure of introducing Renzo to you. But first, a housekeeping observation. If you would be kind enough to turn off your cell phones and refrain from flash photography, that would be appreciated. So let me just say one brief word or two as a way of introducing you to our internationally acclaimed Pritzker Prize-winning architect. Renzo has brought to bear on our project more than 40 years of experience. His achievements include co-designer of the Pompidou Center in Paris and the Menil Collection in Houston, and more recently the Nasher Sculpture Center in Dallas. Renzo's current American projects include the Art Institute of Chicago, the Los Angeles County Museum of Art, the Whitney Museum, the Morgan Library, and the New York Times. Please welcome Renzo Piano.
Oh. Thank you. I'm very touched. What can I say? So many things to say. First, I have to thank a lot of people. This was a great adventure. We got a fantastic client. You all know that to make a good building, a good project, you may need a good architect, but certainly you need a good client. That's for sure. And we got it. We started working about 6 years ago. I have to thank Michael for Michael Shapiro, John Whelan, Terry Stant, must be here probably. I have to thank Shelton Stanfield, that is the president of the Voodoo Art Center. They've been a great help, and they gave us the trust you need to go through a big adventure like this one. Of course, I have also to thank our associate architects. They've been extremely good. Thank you, John. And the engineers, great. We've been working so long time with all our partners and the other engineers as well. Thank you, Alistair. The project manager, Randy, great job. And the builder. The building is well done. You will see. Just go around and touch it. No, I'm not joking. You can feel. When something is well done, you can feel, because it doesn't sound fake. It's real. It's really real. Then, of course, I have to thank my own people. I mean, Elisabetta, Trezzani, Shunji, and overall, I have to thank my long-date partner, Marc Carol, that is the crazy craftsman of this job, l'artisan furieux, they say in French, the crazy craftsman, because he has been really through every single detail, and this is the only way you can make a job. So thank everybody for this. It was great. Everything started about 6 years ago, and the day we found ourselves with Michael, with John, with Ned Rifkin was here at that time, in what I felt was the middle of nowhere, here, beside this building. It was not really a very good place, and we started to think about the scheme. And I felt immediately that it was an impossible job to do without actually redesigning the entire block. And this is true. I mean, you cannot add a building, because if you add a building, you don't create a place. You just add another building. Everything started like that, and then I met Richard Meyer, that I admired for a long time, and I knew since ever. And Richard told me where he thought the new addition may happen. Actually, we drew together, and he drew a little napkin. He drew the umbilical cord that may connect the two buildings. So all this started fundamentally by knowing that we got to make an addition, a much larger addition than the original, that was just creating another layer like it should happen in a good grow of a city, another layer, but without destroying the previous layer. So by having a kind of respectful relationship with the existing building, and also to create a place. And then the work started, and it was something like 5-6 year work, a struggle because, you may think, somebody may think that because the result of the work is harmony, you make in harmony. But this is not true. The harmony is what you have to put in the work. But the day-by-day life is not really that harmonic. I mean, it's a struggle. It's a struggle to find a good solution. It's a struggle to make a test, to look for different solutions. It's a struggle to watch in the dark, as you can say, just to adapt your eyes to the unknown. Because, of course, when you make a museum, you have to understand. So I think I want to take you a bit through what has been done before this, so that you may understand a bit better, maybe, what was the struggle that took us here. This is the place we have been struggling. Is in Italy. It doesn't look like a place to struggle. But it is. It's our office in Genoa, in the outskirts of Genoa. This is my working place, to say, and this is where I've been working. And this is our workshop. The reason why the office is called workshop is because of the origin and our kind of attitude. I was myself a son of a builder, and I grew up with the idea that architecture is about many, many things, but it's also about construction. So the workmanship, the craftsmanship that you need to understand things goes through computer, but also goes through modeling and testing and trying again. So when I say struggle, I mean a peaceful struggle, but it's still the art of going through. This is something you may recognize that was a long time ago in the 70s, at the beginning of the 70s. It was a competition we won with Richard Rogers, my long-date friend, and of course the same engineer we still are working together today, of urban partners. It was a competition, 681 entries. We won. Nobody never understood why we won. It was a mad idea to land with a spaceship like that in the middle of Paris. Nobody actually understood exactly what we were doing, and that's the reason why we were able to do it. But it was really a kind of incredible adventure about rebellion. We were bad boys. I was 33 old, and Richard, the old man, was 36, and we are looking like Beatles. Actually, we got the look of the Beatles. And the day we met the President Georges Pompidou, he almost faded on his seat, but still, we made it. And I think this is a job where, in some way, it didn't change the spirit of museum, that's for sure, but it did happen in the moment when museums were changing. And in fact, the good thing about this building is that it turned from intimidating museum, kind of marble monument, to the idea of a machine, of a curious machine. Curiosity is still one of the most interesting emotions you can build, certainly more interesting than intimidation. So this is the great idea there, was inviting people, relaxing people. This is the piazza there. It's this guy is a good friend of mine, you know, and of course it's a kind of funny combination between sacred and profane, but it was a great adventure a long time ago. Since then, I've been playing with art, and we have been playing with art so much, and with so great pleasure. This is Alexander Calder exhibition in 18, I believe it, that was 81, 82. This is the Menil collection in Houston, that is really about art, a great collection, but is also about light. Rainer Banham, the great critic, was coming quite often to this site, and he was talking all the time about architecture of the well-tempered environment. You know, the idea that architecture is also made by things you don't touch, but you feel, like transparency, light, perspective, multiple plane. Here you are in the museum, you look through the first room, and you see through a garden, and then you see another room, and then another garden, and then another room. And this is a kind of sequence of things that create the sense of mystery and complexity. This was also the first research we have done on light. When I say light, I mean natural light. The natural light in the museum is a great thing because it's imperfect, it's not flat, it's not perfect. It's something where you can feel the clouds coming and going. Is something where you feel the day ending, and it gives you a beautiful sensation. And this is the plan showing the kind of neighborhood where this was built for Dominique de Menil. And this is one of the view of the matting and framing to Branard Street. That is one of the street. The idea that from the street nothing is mysterious. You can see, you can actually see. By the way, I'm showing this because when you will go around this, on the new eye, you will understand it. For example, when you walk on the new Art Center way, in the back, what was the back, you will see through the street, you will see the young students of the School of Art working in the workshop. You will see a space for showing art. So this idea that the street has a connection with the building is interesting very because it actually reveals the mysterious part of the museum. This is also showing, those pictures are showing some of the internal view in the main collection. And you can see the light, and you can see also there the first time we use air conditioning coming from the floor. That air conditioning comes through those little slots in the floor, very, very slowly, so that you create a sense of silence, a sense of rarefied atmosphere that you need in the museum. Let me jump completely somewhere else, because I don't want to appear like a specialist in museum, and we are not. We enjoy museum. They are the most beautiful thing you can do, but we do other things. Here we are in the middle of Japan, and you can see there a little island that is there. You see that little island? This is about 4 miles island that was built here. It was built to make an airport. That was an incredible adventure. I'm talking about that because in the way, the job of the architect is a job of the adventure. Well, it may also become routine, of course, if you try to be self-referential and if you repeat yourself. But if you accept the challenge every time, the new challenge is a great adventure every time. This was really like Robinson Crusoe landing in Japan. You know, it's a great island, and this is the airport we built about 10 years ago. You can see actually the building on the island, and this is a picture during the site. Well, architecture is fighting against gravity. Everybody knows. I mean, and this picture is showing well. You, as an architect, you fight all the entire life against gravity. You have to pick up things like that and keeping them fly. That is not easy, I tell you. Those are pictures showing the geometry of the building and the building itself. Is actually a 2-kilometer long building. Is more than 1 mile long building. It's actually that shape. That is a bit like a glider landing in the island, also because we got to be in this seismic area very, very light, so that in case of earthquake, the building can survive. Actually, we got this building made in 38 months, and we got 36 earthquakes during the site. This is just to tell that the idea of adventure is not just a metaphor, it's real. Well, of course, it's also a metaphor. It's about the spirit, but it's also about reality. When Kobe got that terrible earthquake, the building has been moving more than 1 foot in the top, but it didn't break even a piece of glass. And this is because the building was designed to be flexible and light. Well, you can see here this gigantic animal landing and sitting, sleeping there. This is seen from inside. A cathedral more than 1 mile long where you can see the plane where you go. That is a little miracle you have to do to be able to self-orient people. This is also something the Japanese never understood exactly, because when they saw it, finally they said, oh my God. And they realized that making this was something quite mad in some way, but certainly very important because you create the sense of unity and clarity in the building. The building is very organic. Here, let me jump. I'm sorry to go fast, but I have to, otherwise you all fall asleep. But this is the center of Berlin, Potsdamer Platz, before war. And this was the center of another great adventure with 5,000 people at work from 12 different nationalities in Berlin after the wall went down. And the wall went down 89, this job started 92, in 98 it was done and finished. It's an immense job. Talking about venture, this is the site during excavation. We were not allowed to pump water because we didn't want to change the water level in that part of Berlin that is very close to Tiergarten. So we got to make foundation in the water. So this guy on the right, we got hundreds of those divers, and they were actually pouring concrete and making the foundation of the building in the water, sometimes icy. It was funny because we got boat going around in the middle of Berlin. I'm talking about that because, of course, it's part of the adventure. This is the theater in Potsdamer Platz. Actually, the name we gave to this is Marlene Dietrich Platz. And I tell you, it was not very easy to persuade the mayor of Berlin to call this place Marlene Dietrich Platz. This is the headquarters of Mercedes-Benz. On the right, you can see a piece of a beautiful mark, the Suvero piece of sculpture. This is moving away from Berlin. I was showing Berlin so quickly just to say that, when you are an architect, you have sometimes projects that are extremely complicated from the social point of view. Berlin job was really something almost at the edge between history and construction, because we got to deal with a place that is mythological, because that was the place of the war for a long time. So we got to build in the desert. This is actually something completely different. It's in Basel, and it's the Bel Air Museum. So it's back to museum. This is about one of the most beautiful private collection in the world. It was the great client, a typical Swiss-German client with a very precise opinion, and it was a great experience as well. I'm not going to show everything. This is just showing the space outside. The building is catching the light from the top, and here was another test on natural light that will come back in a moment. This is really somewhere else. This is in the middle of the Pacific area. This is an island called New Caledonia. It's north of Auckland, New Zealand, east of Sydney in Australia. It's a culture center for the Kanaki, for the Maori, for the Aborigine. It's a culture center for all the Pacific culture. This job, well, you can see there, the center is made up by 10 different huts. Actually, they are about 100 feet tall, so they are not small pieces. They are made of wood. Well, this is not a friend here. And the wood is a choice that comes from, of course, reading and listening the culture and the place. Actually, those huts, they have a sound. When the alizi blow about 20 knots, they start to have a sound. They sing. That is not my invention. This is part of their culture. It's made of wood. It's actually made of Iroko wood that is so bad that even termites don't eat. And it was an incredible venture right at the edge between architecture and anthropology in some way. I'm moving away. This, of course, is something completely different, because when you talk about the culture of the Pacific, you mainly talk about performing art. You talk basically about dancing, movement, singing, and very little actually art in the Occidental, in our kind of perception. But this was another example of how an architect may find necessity to adapt and itself, and to make a reinterpretation, and to listen. The listening to the place is essential. It's not true that places don't talk. What is true is that architects don't listen, but places have a story to tell. This is in Tokyo. This is actually in the center of Tokyo. Is Ginza. Is the headquarters for Hermes. It's not just a shop. It's actually more than that, because it's their headquarters. This is made up by glass. This is a picture of the roof, of the little terrace in the roof. Sorry, I go too fast. And I'm showing this because in some way, the magic of this building is to sit in the middle of the kaleidoscopic atmosphere of Ginza in the center of Tokyo, and the material is fundamentally glass. So it's a kind of immateriality and playing with perspective and transparency. This is a very modest job we made in Parma. It's a little auditorium we made 10 years ago. It was made by working on an old factory. I'm showing this because sometimes you have to work with an existing building. Those things are things that you can see in the exhibition when it will open in about 1 week time here in the little piazza. And this was a little concert hall for 800 seats that we built by using the existing wall of a great factory. This is actually something else. This is in Rome, and this is much bigger concert hall. This is for almost 3,000 seats, plus another room, another concert hall for 1,200, and the third one for 800. So there are 3 different buildings. What you see here is the skin made of lead. This is the vision inside. The design of this is the 300,000, actually it's more exactly 750 seat, and is actually built up and designed together with Helmut Müller, that is a great physician and acoustician. Is actually made like an acoustic chamber. I mean, when you design a concert hall, you have to understand that is what you have to do is you have to create the sense of the sound, and of course this is very technical, but it's also musical, and that's the reason we have been working with musicians here and side by side. Just another completely different corner. This is about religion. This is a church we have just made in the south of Italy. This is where we actually work. We start to work with Roy Lichtenstein. Then Roy, unfortunately, disappeared to make a beautiful piece of art there in the Chapel of the Eucharisty. We actually work with Bob Rauschenberg and other artists. It's not easy, I have to say, to work with Vatican. Don't say that. Don't quote me, but it's not easy. And still we are still struggling about that. But sometime, one day or the other will happen. Because Bob Russian made a beautiful piece of art that is not yet there. And those are pictures of this church that is built in stone. And the arches are very, very vast arches made out of stone. Let's move to this country again. This is in Dallas, and this is for my friend Ray Nasher, that may be here. And this is work we've done in a great team with Ray, with Steve Nash, and of course we built up a fantastic Andrea. I mean, we got here as well. You built up team, and this is a sculpture garden we made in Dallas. It's in the middle of downtown Dallas. Ray has been generous enough and also mad enough to buy a piece of land there, and instead of making a big building, he decided to make a sculpture garden. And we did it. And the beauty of this is really the kind of relationship between inside and outside. What you see here is a room where we have been working out a special system for light, for natural light, and you see out in the garden a piece from Mark Lisuro, and the two walls, outside, inside, work together. Here we have been working on the garden with Peter Walker. It was a great experience as well. This is the stone we use. We use actually a stone excavated in Rome. It's a travertine and sandblasted to the point where it looked like been there since a few thousand years. It's quite ironic because to find a piece of archaeology in the middle of Dallas, it doesn't look very natural, but it was part of the game. This is the system we work out with Arup on the natural lighting, and this is probably what, number 4 experience, because Dallas is not right on the axis north-south, here we got to find a solution. And of course, the big thing here is that because they are sculpture, we are able to use something more than usual. It's probably more about 100 or 150 foot candle more than the usual 20 or 25. So we are able to create a more crisp atmosphere. And this is in Bern, quite recent. And what you see on the right is not a Paul Klee drawing or painting, but look like. This is actually the land before we started. This is a museum for Paul Klee. He's a great artist, a great legacy from Bauhaus. It's been also a great adventure. Making a museum for Paul Klee is not easy. All the pieces of art are practically, almost all are on paper. They're very fragile. You need a very little light. This is the model showing how the land became the building in some way. The land is, the entire project is the entire piece of wood, but the building is only the corrugated part. So the building merged from the land. And here you see the picture from the back where you see the building merging, coming out from the land. And this is a picture showing in the front how the beams that are curved beams play with the ground, creating that sense of, it's at the edge between architecture and land art, I guess. Well, those are some pictures inside. And this on the left is the space we made for children to play, to enjoy. It's actually a culture center. It's called Paul Klee Centrum. And this is also where they do other exhibitions, like, for example, the friends of Paul Klee, like Chagall and other painters. We are back here, and we change subject. We go from museum to building. This is New York, as you can see, and this is what I feel New York is about. It's a city of atmosphere. Everything in New York in the evening become red, after shower become blue, and we designed the New York Times headquarters that is here. You can see the model is now under construction. We are right now at the 20th floor, so it will take another couple of years before we are finished completely. It's a building that actually play with atmosphere. The surface of the building is made by 100,000 little ribs of ceramic that actually protect the skin of the building from the sun. So we don't have here mirror glass, we don't have tinted glass that is so sad. We are actually defending the building by using little piece of ceramic that will of course reflect the weather. So this building will change with the weather. Well, I hope so, but I think it will happen. It will happen because the whole building change in New York, and this will be particularly atmospheric in some way. Well, you understand what is this building about. It's not just to play with atmosphere. It's about the new headquarters for New York Times. It's actually placed between 40 and 41 Times Square and the 8th Avenue. And so it's not moving away from where New York Times has been since the beginning of its existence. And this is, again, New York, almost finished job. It will be finished in a few months and will open in April. This is the Morgan Library, and we are Madison, and 36 and 37. We've been digging down, as you can see from that picture on the right, about 50 foot, actually more sometime, and we're building part of the building underground because the Morgan Library, as you know, is about rare books. And the best place you can find to put rare books is the Rock of Manhattan, that's for sure. Well, you have just to be sure that there are no river under there, but once you are sure about that, the Rock of Manhattan is fantastic. It's very good. It's forever, that's for sure. So this is the idea. I show you just very quickly, just a picture showing on the top, on the left here, the drawing showing that this is like an iceberg. Part of the iceberg is actually underground, so the vaults, the auditorium are on the ground, and then above ground we have reading room, and we have all the other functions. And on the right you see a picture where we've been cutting the rock, the schist, less than 1 foot away from the existing building that are historical buildings. Actually, the institution is historical. It's made up by 3 buildings from 1850, 1906, and 1925. So what we add here is a typical of those layers you can find in the city. So I'm showing this more to talk about complexity. And this is in San Francisco. This is the sciences, the California Academy of Science. It looked that funny because, in fact, that roof is made of earth and is actually in the middle of Golden Gate Park. Is an existing institution there on the bottom. You see here, it was almost demolished by the recent earthquake, so the decision was taken to remake. We actually kept some of those old buildings, but as you can see from the top slide, those 2 balls are, one is the rainforest, the other one is the planetarium, and we redesigned the entire thing like a flying roof. Actually, we have no air conditioning in this building except for the species. We have there 20 million species, natural species, and of course those storage are air conditioned, but otherwise we actually use the breeze and we use the capacity of the roof to be thermally insulated. This is the central section that is kind of little piazza here that is with the roof. You know, in some way the roof is one of the exhibits. It's actually made like an undulating organic structure. And this is in Chicago. This is the extension of the Art Institute on the northeast end of the Art Institute between Michigan and Columbus Drive and Morrow Street. It's now on site. We've just started. Those are sections showing. It's just in front of Frank Gehry open air theater in the Millennium Park. There's a lot I can say, but I don't have the time to go through this. I just want to show this because this is one of the tests we made. We are used in the office to make tests and to make experiment before making building. So we make prototype. We enjoy very much doing this. This is LACMA. This is the Los Angeles County Museum, including an extension called BCAM, the broad extension for a collection of art. This is actually showing what we call the connecting net between the building. You may know that that institution is made up of 4 or 5 buildings, flying is in a kind of funny way, one again away from the other. This is a place where we are actually able today, we have just started to make a little miracle. We take away, this is the first time in the history of Los Angeles, we take away one street to make a park, and we take away a garage to make a park. So this will be a kind of new attitude, and this is actually showing a section of the building. I can go through in detail, but this is just to say that this is another venture, completely different, in completely different situation where you still have one duty, to add a good space for art, but also to interconnect what is left there. Now, I come to Atlanta, and I will try to be short. This is Atlanta, and the red spot is where we are, Peachtree Street, 15th and 16th Street, and a street in the back that was called a long time ago Lombardi Way, now it's called the Art Center Way. Atlanta is, well, it's a great place. It's a great place, especially because nature is so good. You know, what is good? Architects, when they do mistake, they grow ivy or they put trees. In this city, they grow very fast. So if you make a mistake, you can hide very quickly. No, I'm not joking because, sometimes they don't grow. So you spend years before you get happy. And we are trying to grow here, yeah. But apart from joking, I think nature is the real DNA of this city. It's great. I mean, have a look to the big Ginkgo here when you go out at the entrance of Peachtree Street. It's great. I mean, there are no other city where trees grow this way. This is a little sketch that was made one day, a long time ago, with Richard Meyer on the table of the Four Seasons restaurant in New York, with Philip Johnson sitting beside, just waiting peacefully that we are finished. And Richard, that is a great friend, he's a great architect, he sketched that in a napkin, and he said, look, if you really have to add something, and that something is that funny thing there, because of course he didn't know, and I didn't know what we were talking about, do this way. Just put the umbilical cord there. And this was good, because that was correct. So we started to work, also working on that. And this was the first master plan. A bit mad. On the left is the first picture on the left is the situation when we started, the dormitory. And this is the point where we found ourselves in the middle of nowhere, there, exactly there. And we decided that day that got to become the piazza, the center point. The second sketch there is actually showing the present situation. This is where the piazza is, and those are the buildings we have been adding, 1, 2, 3, and 4. Actually, number 4 was done first because this is the new school of art with the new college. So the new college is like a chess game. We got to do the new college there to be able to demolish that one and to go ahead. The third is my dream, one day or the other to blow up part of this building. But it's a joke. It's a joke. I love this. Shelton, you know that I love this building, so I will never do that. But anyway, if we can peacefully blow up, that will be great. And so we can try to create a kind of continuity, a block. It's very simple. I'm not suggesting anything special. Let's create a block. Let's create unity, the sense of unity. This is a sketch we made a long time ago. This was showing the piazza in the middle. There are some situations where you start by designing the empty space. You don't start by designing the building. You start by designing it. And, here you understand that there's one thing I can do very little about. I'm Italian. And being Italian means, apart from other things, mean that you have a kind of instinctive pleasure for building place for people to meet. I mean, the idea of the piazza, that is different from plaza. Be careful. Plaza is the bad version of piazza. You understand why? Because in the plaza, you know exactly what to do in every corner. You have to buy this, you have to buy that, you have to buy that, you have to buy that, etc., etc. A piazza is beautiful because it's a place of freedom. It's a place where you are free to stroll around. Nobody asks you anything. A piazza is the place of freedom. It's a place of empty, functionalistic devoir. You have no duty there. You are just taking pleasure. The piazza is one of the icons of the city, of the urban places. The piazza is the place where experience melt, where difference disappear. Eventually, is where fear goes away in some way, because you feel like part of a community. The piazza is the place where common feeling comes on surface, and you feel together. So this is fundamentally the idea. Let's start making in the middle of Atlanta a piazza and not a place. Those sections are not really showing that much, and it may be much better to go out and to see. This is quite interesting because this is showing the connection between the Whelan Pavilion, that is this building here, and the Meyer building And you see that the connection is made on ground floor by umbilical cord there and on the third floor there. Because the new building has headroom that are different from the first one, well, you can see the first one is made of 1, 2, 3, 4 floor, and the new one is made of 3 floor. So we don't connect the two buildings on every floor. But that doesn't matter, because one of the idea, and I hope you will be able to feel that, is that once you move around the building, you don't even notice where you are. You don't even wonder if you are in that building, in the other building. You just enjoy and you go around. So this idea of making, instead of making a big building, one big building, to make 3 or 4 smaller, is a question of scale. It's absolutely useless to say that cities are made by layers if every time you make a layer, this new layer destroys the old one. Cities are beautiful when the layers are actually adding complexity and beauty and not taking away. So by making new building, we got to be quite equivalent in volume, in bulkness, in massiveness, in scale, I should say, to the first one. So instead of making one big building, we prefer to make 3 or 4 actually smaller buildings. And also the other advantage that by doing this, we were able to create the piazza. And this is not a picture that actually today you can see in reality. Well, this is a diagram we work out in the office to work on light. You know, working on natural light is important. Natural light is a magic experience, but you have to be quite clever because natural light imply also ultraviolet that are very bad for works of art, imply protection of work of art against the sun and against too much of light. So you have to catch a north light. In Atlanta, you may have noticed, it's not built like Chicago. North is not north, and south is not south. In Atlanta, everything is tilted. No, I'm not joking. The topographer that made Chicago was a good one. And he put north on north, south on south, east on east, and west on west. The one working in Atlanta was a bit funny, and everything is a bit twisted. So we got to twist the element of the roof to catch the north light. That is the opposite of what you normally do when you look at the sunflower. They normally turn to look for the south. Here we got to turn the element to the north. Well, somebody may see in those sketches a kind of sculptural approach. Maybe, why not? But it's not sculpture. They are actually, if you prefer, you may also see as a sculpture. I have nothing against that, but they are actually beautifully crafted piece of construction. This is during the site. This is during assembling. This is another view of the top. Well, when you look to this picture, you realize that this roof is made out of 1,000 pieces like that. And those pieces are all made in such a way that they look for north. I was joking before by saying that I have a little problem. I'm Italian. I have another little problem. I'm the son of a builder. And when you are a son of a builder, you grow up with this idea in your skin that construction is something good. It's not a dirty word. Construction is not a kind of secondary thing. Construction, there's a kind of poetry of construction. There's a kind of beauty in construction. You have to be, of course, very silly to believe that construction is more important than everything else. In architecture, it's not true. Architecture is a common house of science and art. It's a common house of instinct and rationality, history, invention. It's the common house of so many things. All those things come together. Architecture is in some way a kind of a beautiful, tasteful bouillabaisse, where everything comes together, but must be very well done, of course. In that logic, construction is a very important thing. It's not something that comes later. So, and this is probably something that is my skin, or in our skin now, because we have a team that is working. I have people working with me, and I'm working with them since now 20, 30, 35 years sometimes. And this is like a family. So we have built in our little group of 100 people, and that is called actually, by no accident, it's called the building workshop. We have built that kind of pleasure, that kind of joy to make pieces. And when you make pieces like that, I was walking in the roof today. I will take you there one day, one by one. I tell you, it's great. It's great. And somebody may even say, but it's not nobody can see it. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Where's the problem? It's beautiful. It's great. And it works. Anyway, now, this is another picture, but you will see much better when you move out. This is another picture of the restaurant. This is a connection between the new building and the old building, but believe me, when you are there, you don't even see. And those are pictures inside. This is on the third floor, and you feel the natural light coming down. And those are some pictures of that. And, you know, when you look at that, this is Ellsworth Kelly piece, beautiful. This is a quartet on the third floor. We have a room with a quartet of Ellsworth Kelly. I was telling him the other day that this, for me, remind me a piece of music made by Pierre Boulez called Répond. Répond means answer, and it's actually played by 4 players on each side of the room, and they talk, they answer each other. Those 4 pieces are beautiful. Well, you can see only one here, of course, but you will see. It's beautiful. And, you know, in some way, what I'm trying to say here, of course, is a picture showing natural light, is that a museum is a magic place. Dominique de Menil used to say, to tell me, a museum is a place where you have to cry, or you may end by crying, you know. It's that kind, or losing your head, actually, she said. You can lose your head. It's true. A museum is a place out of the world. And this is a place out of the world. This room is a place out of the world. It's actually above physics. You may say it's a metaphysics because it's not in this world. And it's also not in this time, because a museum is where you take away a piece of art that is so fragile from the running time, and, you know, you build duration. This is what the museum does. It builds duration in every sense, because it protects the piece of art and it puts the piece of art in a different dimension. A museum, like a room like that, is a place where you take art out from context, out from time, running time, and you put it in a new dimension that is timeless. This is the spirit, and I thank you for coming so numerous, and you are welcome to the museum. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, Renzo, and thank you to everyone who came today for this talk, and we all look forward to providing a joyous encounter